How long does a DWI stay on a driving record in Louisiana? A DWI charge cannot be removed from a driving record through the expungement process in Louisiana. The expungement process is used to remove a criminal record from the public view. However, insurance companies vary as to how long driving records go back for DWI charges. Also, insurance companies differentiate whether the incident was only a DWI arrest or a conviction. How long is jail time for DWI arrest? A suspect will be held in jail for DWI arrest in Louisiana until a bond has been posted. The bond provides assurance to the court that the suspect will appear in court to answer to the DWI charge. The bail amount will be set by the judge and is based on whether the charge is DWI first offense or felony DWI. Also, the judge will consider if other charges exist, such as hit and run or drug possession. Judges can also allow the arrestee to be released on their own recognizance. And since COVID, some officers have been releasing DWI arrestees on a summons only without even booking the arrestee. How much will a DWI ticket cost? The fines for a DWI ticket range from $750 to $5,000. A DWI fine is not like a speeding ticket because it is court required, and it's considered a serious misdemeanor for DWI first and second offense. Many times we'll go to some of the court dates for our clients so they don't need to miss work or school. Every judge is different. Nevertheless, DWI is not a charge you just go to court and pay. There are negative consequences to your driver's license, insurance, criminal record, etc. Always seek the assistance of a DWI lawyer if you receive a criminal charge. So what's the first step after you get a DWI arrest? The first step is to request in writing an administrative hearing within 30 days from the date of the arrest. A defense lawyer should request a hearing if hired immediately. We do so for our clients. Depending on the circumstances of your case, there are other proactive steps we may advise you to take now that may help your case, such as treatment, classes, paying restitution, and more. So how do you avoid losing a CDL license after a DWI arrest? In order to avoid losing a CDL license, the defense lawyer should request the administrative hearing and argue against losing the CDL. This requires the attorney to examine the police officer's reports, which may include certifications for the intoxilizer, operator, and maintenance technician. Then the attorney will have to negotiate against the DWI charge in criminal court as well. So how do you expunge a DWI felony arrest and conviction? A felony DWI conviction must conclude with a sentence under Article 893, receive a governor's pardon, or 10 years has elapsed since completion of the sentence. The defendant must file a motion to expunge the record, which must be approved by the judge to get the felony DWI arrest and conviction expunged. The process can take up to a year to complete and cost $600 in filing fees plus attorney fees if you hire a lawyer. So what happens to a driver's license after DWI first offense? If a defendant is convicted for DWI first offense in Louisiana, his or her license could be suspended for 1 year. This suspension is separate from the refusal or submittal over the limit. For instance, if it is a DWI first offense but the driver blew .20 or above, he would be looking at a license suspension of 2 years. Therefore, if you are arrested for DWI, you could lose your license as a result of refusing the breathalyzer or submitting over the limit, as well as a conviction in criminal court. So what are the fees for reinstatement of a driver's license after DWI? Typically, the reinstatement fees are generally around $150. However, they vary based on other aspects of the case. Also, reinstatement of the license could come with a condition that the driver have the ignition interlock device installed. This would be in a situation when the license is not suspended, however, they have a prior DWI and a recent refusal of the breathalyzer. Is a DWI or OWI a felony in Louisiana, and which one is worse? Well, DWI, driving while intoxicated, and OWI, operating a vehicle while intoxicated, are the same charge in Louisiana. The actual name of the charge in Louisiana is operating a vehicle while intoxicated, which is found under LARS 1498. The DWI statute involves driving while under the influence of alcohol and/or drugs. DWI first and second offense are misdemeanors. DWI third, fourth, and subsequent offenses are felony charges. How long does a DWI affect getting a job? Well, that just depends. A DWI arrest record or DWI arrest and conviction may appear on a criminal record. Either way, they will remain on the criminal record until the expungement process is complete. Depending on whether or not someone was convicted and the sentence received, determines when someone can file the expungement. Also, if the defendant participates in a pretrial diversion program for a DWI charge in Louisiana, he or she must wait 5 years before filing an expungement to remove the arrest, but there will be no conviction in that circumstance. How much is the bond for DWI first offense? Depending on where the DWI arrest occurred, the bail amount for DWI first offense is usually set by a judge or can also follow a scheduled bail. Typically, the bail is set around $2,500 for DWI first offense. If the defendant is unable to pay the bond, he or she can hire a bondsman to put up the bond. The defendant will pay the bondsman around 10 to 12% of the bail amount, which is the bond fee for putting up the entire amount. So how does a DWI bond work? Well, after the judge sets the bail amount after the arrest, a person can go to the jail and post a cash bond with the sheriff in the full amount of the bail or hire a bail bondsman and pay him 12%. If the surety pays a cash bond, he or she will get it all back after the defendant goes to court. If the surety hires a bail bondsman for the DWI, he or she will not get the 12% back. That is the bondsman's fee for putting up the entire amount. So how long until you can have a DWI expunged? Once the motion to expunge a DWI is filed in Louisiana, it can take a few months to go through or even up to a year. Most of the problems with the expungements occur because the defendant will file it himself and provide misinformation that goes into the motion. The state will then send it back and the defendant will lose his or her money and time. An expungement attorney will be able to achieve a clean record most of the time. So how long does a DWI charge stay on the driving record, and will it affect insurance? DWI arrests and convictions will remain on the driving record forever. No motion exists for removing an entry from your driving record. For concerns regarding a DWI arrest or conviction and the implications for insurance, one should contact his or her insurance provider or multiple insurance companies to see what their policy is regarding a DWI arrest and or conviction on the driving record. The insurance companies will have specific guidelines for writing policies for those DWI records. Insurance companies are private companies that can choose to insure somebody or not. Some insurance companies retain records for 7 years, some do it for longer. They're all different. So what should you expect if charged with a DWI in Louisiana? If the driver refused the breathalyzer or blew over the limit, he or she will have 30 days from the date of arrest to request an administrative hearing to fight the proposed suspension of his or her driver's license or driving privileges in Louisiana, if you're from out of state. After that 30 days has passed, the driver loses the right to request the license hearing. So what is the sentence for DWI third offense? DWI third offense is a felony in Louisiana punishable by 1 to 5 years and a fine of up to $2,000. The legislature created the law to require that the defendant receives a prison sentence. However, recent changes have allowed for some exceptions if the defendant completes a drug diversion program. How much jail time for DWI with child endangerment? For DWI first offense, the judge could sentence the defendant to at least 10 days up to 6 months in jail if convicted under the child endangerment statute and DWI in Louisiana. If the charge is a DWI second offense, jail time can be 30 days to 6 months. This is a very serious provision of the statute, and judges vary greatly as to how they sentence pursuant to the child endangerment provision of the DWI statute. So how do you obtain a driver's license after DWI first offense? There are many ways to continue driving after receiving a DWI in Louisiana. If the license has become suspended, the defendant may apply for a hardship license at the DMV. The primary requirement to getting a hardship license is to first have an ignition interlock device installed. If the case involves a refusal or conviction, the DMV may require the driver to present proof of an SR22 insurance certificate. The blood level alcohol content level for the presumption of being under the influence of alcohol is 0.08 or more in Louisiana. If the driver is under the age of 21 years old, the legal limit is under 0.02 before the presumption of the driver being under the influence of alcohol kicks in. If the driver is under 21 and blows 0.08 or above, he could be charged with adult DWI instead of underage DWI. So how long do you have to carry SR22 insurance after DWI? The DMV requires the driver to carry SR22 insurance to continue to drive after a DWI refusal or conviction. The driver will have to carry it for the specified period of time stipulated by the DMV, which is usually the period of suspension. For first refusal or first offense DWI conviction, the period of suspension is 1 year. But there are other variables that may affect that time period. So how do you get a temporary license for DWI? At the time of the DWI arrest, the driver should have received a temporary license which is valid for 30 days from the date of arrest. That period of time is granted by law to give the attorney time to request the administrative hearing. So even if you don't have a piece of paper that says temporary license in the system, you should be valid. How long is the driver's license suspended for DWI? The license suspension varies based on whether or not the defendant was convicted of DWI, refused the breathalyzer, submitted over the legal limit, and if any prior DWI arrests, convictions, submittals, and refusals existed. After a DWI arrest, is the license automatically suspended? A driver's license is not automatically suspended after being arrested for DWI. The defendant will have 30 days from the date of arrest to request an administrative hearing for the proposed suspension of the driving privileges. During that 30 days, the defendant can drive on a temporary license. Let's make sure this is clear. In Louisiana, it's 30 days, not 15 like you may read on the internet. What is a possible sentence for DWI second offense? The sentence for a DWI second offense in Louisiana is 30 days to 6 months in jail, and 48 hours of the sentence must be served. The judge can suspend all but the 48 hours. Sometimes home incarceration for that 48 hours is an option, depending on the facts and circumstances of the case. The fine for a second DWI charge is $750 to $1,000. The judge must also order the defendant to complete 240 hours of community service, participate in a driver improvement program, do a substance abuse evaluation and/or treatment, and other conditions. What are the fines for DWI first offense? The fines for DWI first offense conviction in Louisiana are $300 to $1,000. How can a DWI charge be a felony? To be charged with a felony DWI in Louisiana, the defendant must have 2 prior DWI convictions within the last 10 years, regardless of whether or not the convictions were in different states or if the prior conviction happened after the arrest for the current charge. Even if the prior DWI was expunged, it will likely still show to the prosecutor, and he or she may use it to enhance the new DWI. The 10-year time period starts after the defendant completed probation on the previous DWI up to the date of arrest for the current charge. So how much does a DWI cost in Louisiana? After the completion of probation, ignition interlock device, classes, attorney's fees, etc., the total estimated cost of a DWI charge in Louisiana is about $7,500 to $10,000. The cost of having a DWI charge is high because the cases may extend over a long period of time and require many fees that accrue significantly over time. A defense lawyer may try to minimize the financial cost by negotiating terms with the prosecutor and judge when possible.